But those little bubbles contain, I think, and I might get the name wrong, it's a type of acid. I think it's fumic acid or formic acid. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it is a great antihistamine. It's a really wonderful, and it's there when the plant is fresh.
Right.
From that first spring, this is highest, that component is highest in the plant in the springtime.
Yeah.
Probably because nature provides for us creatures. And so, but it's really great in that fresh herb. And so this is one of the things that we try to do fresh.
Welcome to the Light Cellar Podcast, brought to you by Light Cellar, a place where you can learn to find and craft your own food and medicine. In this interview series, you will meet a range of characters in the health and wellness space that are bringing light to your everyday. You'll hear from a number of different experts on a wide variety of topics. We have several different series within the podcast, including our Wild Wisdom and Storytelling with Blaine Andrusic, the Rays of Light, inspiring wellness in the community, plus solo casts, Q&As, and other topics for you to enjoy. You can find this as a video version, as well as the audio on any of your favorite platforms. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this with somebody you know who will benefit. You can also shop online at lightcellar.ca.
Hello. Welcome to another edition of Herbal Highlights with Angela Bewick.
And Malcolm Saunders.
All right. Well, it is spring.
Spring has sprung.
You were stating the obvious.
I was stating the obvious before. It is spring.
Yeah.
And
all right.
we had a little bit, like as we do in Calgary. If you're not from Calgary, you don't know what we're talking about, but it's always a...
Oh, yeah. A ride. Is it really spring? But it is.
The shoulder seasons are always a bit of a lottery. When you don't really know what's going to happen. But it's hot. Today is hot.
Totally. And
it's time.
As often happens with spring, I had a little bit of a cold last week.
It was going around.
Oh, it's going around. Some congestion, all that good. I haven't had one in a long time, so it's like, okay.
Time for a detox.
Yeah, time for like chilling out, resting. But somebody asked me, like, are you sure it was a cold? Are you sure it wasn't just allergies? Like, do you get any of that? I'm like, no. I actually, I'm blessed. I don't deal with any kind of allergies.
Have you ever had that?
No, I've never had that.
Never had seasonal?
My father does, for sure. He dealt with hayfever for a long time. It still is a bit of an issue. So I have ultimate compassion for those that, can you imagine, right?
Itchy, watery eyes, and the nose stuffed up, and you don't know if you're sick or if it's allergies. Yeah.
So, and actually, one of the worst offenders is Manitoba maple.
Yes, people think it's the poplar fluff, but it's actually the Manitoba maple.
Yeah, its pollen is one of the most kind of allergy-inducing. So we're going to talk about, maybe some solutions, some remedies, things to even just ever so slightly ease symptoms, avoid those OTCs.
Yeah. Over the counters.
Right.
Can we say that?
Yeah.
Are we allowed to say that?
I was speaking in code,
Oh, sorry. We'll just cut that part out.
That's
just kidding.
Good.
We probably won't.
No. So I'm sure maybe we can start there since we did talk about pollens.
Yes.
Right? I'm sure many people have heard that idea of kind of like, it's almost like microdosing the pollen.
Yes.
Sensitizing oneself little bit. So bee pollen is often how folks will go about that. You obviously want to make sure you get a local bee pollen that contains the pollens of your area.
Yep.
Maybe ideally harvested in the spring, right? Bee pollen could be from summertime.
Yep.
But I think regardless, it's still going to have that type of an effect. And
how about pine pollens? Have you had any experience with that?
I do know one person that's allergic to pine pollen.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think just all pollens in general. So.
But if someone wasn't allergic, could they use pine pollen as that sort of like preparatory? Because that's what I had always been taught about seasonal allergies is it's good to start in like February.
Right.
Start kind of microdosing with certain things like the mushrooms.
Yeah.
Or the pollens.
Yeah.
And I wonder if pine pollen would be helpful.
Sure, why not?
Why not try it? If you're not allergic to it, obviously.
Yeah, and I was even going to suggest, like, if we know, like, Manitoba is one of the kind of main offenders, like, go harvest some of that and, like, just put a little bit on your tongue and
This is all an experimentation.
Yeah.
We're not giving
Here.
we're not getting any advice, but
Yeah.
you know, it's good to, Malcolm and I both use ourselves as experimental, you know, creatures. So,
but some other approaches that are
some.
less experimental.
Yes.
Let's get into that. So a lot of it we know is like, it can be like a histamine buildup in the body.
Yeah.
So some very concrete strategies. Histamines, they're natural part of our body system metabolism. Like they're in foods, our body produces them.
Yep.
And,
Normal inflammatory process.
Yeah. And as our good friends Lucas Simmons and Tracy Reed describe,
Shout out to them. I'm holding up their book, Histamine Haven.
Histamine Haven.
If you think you have histamine issues, get this book because it's really good.
Really
it's
amazing.
very, very well
Really
researched.
break it down.
Yeah.
And you know, they use that analogy of like the kitchen sink being really full and it's overflowing. That's when you have a problem. And so, you know, kind of a twofold approach. Like, okay, we'll identify the foods, you know, that contain or high histamine that are like, you know, contributing to that overload. That's something you can control.
Absolutely.
You know, like what you can't control is, well, maybe do you hide inside, you know, for a month? Not so practical. You know, like pollen, it's in the air. So you can try those kind of theoretical strategies we were talking about at the beginning, but it's, you know, what might be in your food that is, again, contributing to that overflow. You know, less input, your body will be able to help adapt. So they've got a full list of what are, you know, the high histamine containing foods. There's a couple off the top of our heads, like ferments. Oh my gosh, ferments.
Ferments, for sure.
Yeah.
Bone broth
Bone
as
broth.
opposed to, and they have a great recipe in here for meat stock, which is a different way to prepare a broth, so you can still enjoy that. But the bone broth, anything that's sort of a long cooked, you know, leftovers have a higher histamine count than something that's made fresh. For example, aged beef versus fresh fish or something like that. A little bit lower histamine, dark chocolate, as opposed to, which we have here, many varieties of lighter kind of white chocolate options that are just as delicious.
It doesn't have to be deprivation. And again, these ladies, they've done such an incredible job really breaking it down from kind of a diet perspective to reduce, or sometimes you need to like eliminate histamines completely.
Yes, usually for a period of time.
Yeah.
There are different constitutions always where there's like a kind of foundational immune dysfunction that may be more difficult to overcome, but I personally am not an absolutist. I'm always like, there's always a way to heal or to recover some of that robust health that you want to have.
Yeah. Okay. And then what are, you know, so that's a good approach. And then kind of second parallel to that would be, what are the certain like herb supplements, you know, one can take to be supportive during that time. And just so happens that we're in nettle season.
We are in nettle season.
Yeah,
they're popping.
Right? Like,
whoa. You did a great video in the foraging forecast in your own garden.
Yeah, they are just popping. And isn't that amazing that nature just provides, you know, like the herbs, the plants that you need as a remedy. So nettles are one of the great ones as antihistamine. And that's something that, you know, I've been preparing. Nettle tincture. We do a fresh nettle tincture, nettle teas, you know, any form you can get it is great.
When you look at the back of a nettle, like a fresh nettle plant, there's those little bumps on the back of it. Obviously be careful because they stay, the little hairs on the rest of the plant. But those little bubbles contain, I think, and I might get the name wrong, it's a type of acid. I think it's fumic acid or formic acid. Thank you. And it is a great antihistamine. It's a really wonderful, and it's there when the plant is fresh. So even though dried nettle is awesome and there's still some great benefits to it, and especially if it was dried from that first spring, this is highest, that component is highest in the plant in the springtime. Probably because nature provides for us creatures. And so if you can get, some of it will come through in the dry herb, but it's really great in that fresh herb. And so this is one of the things that we try to do fresh.
Totally.
And we're gonna, like I said to Malcolm, like, just throw it right in your Vitamix from the garden, blend it up with alcohol,
as fresh
and
as possible.
So we really get that really antihistamine kind of qualities from the plant.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know this is our sample
This is,
bottle.
I know it's
kind of
almost,
getting down.
it's a very popular one. I have lots of people coming in going, I need some nettle. What an amazing plant. It's like
totally.
so rich in minerals. There's like, what do they call it? The urtification, when you take the plant and like beat, like you have, say, arthritis in your elbow and you like smack your elbow with the plant, and the stinging aspect gets you to have like more blood flow to the area.
Yeah.
And
of course, Denis always talks about, well, maybe we won't go there, stinging
do
certain
we want
parts.
to know what Denis is urtifying?
And he claims this was an ancient, like Roman practice.
I'm sure it was.
Totally, I'm sure it is.
Those Romans got up to a lot of funky business.
Yeah, and this probably wasn't just limited to them. I'm
No.
sure it was some other cultures as well
No.
that figured out, okay, if I sting myself there,
All the things.
heightened sensations, increased blood flow, like all the things.
And there's often, what's the plant that grows often beside nettle, which helps with the sting? Is it goldenrod?
Yellow dock.
Yellow dock, yeah.
Yeah,
So there's
yeah.
that's the other thing. Nature often will grow things that help.
Yeah. And
with other-
actually, in fact, and this is a bit of like, it's not quite as immediate and direct, but the juice of nettle. So I suppose you could like
Yes.
chew it, or like the tea.
So
they
make
say
like
the
a
tea.
poultice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So nettle tea
It's
on
amazing.
sting.
And it's
Yeah.
so rich in minerals. Like the dry herb is a phenomenal nutritive, which we talked about in a previous.
You know what's funny for me in nettles? It's like, so I've been picking some lately, like
Yeah.
just out of the garden. I'm in there, not every day, but every couple of days, let
Yeah.
it regrow, pick some more. And sometimes so I dislocated my finger a number of years ago, and it's just like, it healed,
But there's
it's
still a little bit
yeah, like you can kind of see it's
Yeah,
just
it's
like
a bit more tissue.
almost
a
like
bit more-
swollen, and that kind of thing. And it's like slightly rheumatic, like it's
Yes.
not rheumatoid arthritis. It's like, but there's a little bit of something there.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm picking nettles, I'm always trying to get my finger in there.
You wanna
and,
urtify
I
your-
want to urtify that spot. And sometimes I find it really hard to sting myself. Like they just don't sting. And then I was in the nettle patch the other day, which had some garlic, and these were volunteers, where I didn't harvest it last year, so I've got clump of 5-6 garlic sprouts growing up, and so I was digging them up, separating them, transplanting it. I got stung so bad.
Really? So did the hairs were kind of in the soil almost?
Well, no,
or it was just because
the garlic's growing in amongst the nettles. So as I'm in
yes.
there trying to do this, it's I go and pick it, I don't get stung, but here I am doing other things around the nettles.
Yeah.
I'm
I think there's some, people can talk about being a bit of a, what's that word when you intentionally hurt yourself?
Right.
But,
Masochist?
yeah, masochist. But
What's our word
there
of the
is
day? Our word of the day?
Our word of the day is masochism. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. It's not at all. But that was what Patrick was saying when he was talking about picking nettle. He was like, I pick them until it's just uncomfortable.
Right.
And then he's like, then I put on gloves, because he thinks there is some benefit to getting a little.
totally.
And plus, it's always good to interact with your
Yeah.
plants.
Yeah, for sure.
And you may build up. I'm sure when the plant is newer, it's got a little bit less of a kick to it, but you won't, yeah.
And
Anyways,
there's different varieties too. Somebody gave me these mini Russian nettles. I don't know if that's the true name, but that's what they described them as.
I had hemp nettle growing in my,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
which I did not plant. It just showed
Right.
up, and I was like, "What is this?" And then I,
Yeah.
did my app thing, and it was like, "This is hemp nettle."
Hemp nettle.
I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, cool."
Yeah, totally different.
But wonderful for helping to reduce that histamine response. And the histamine response is great, but it's, again, when it gets out of control, when it gets uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And this can be something to bring into your life. And the nice thing about putting it in this form is that we can preserve that spring freshness
Totally.
all year round, because
Yeah.
we've done it from a
Yeah.
fresh plant.
And then plus be getting some nice minerals as well from
Yeah,
the nettles.
it tastes good too. It's a really nice tasting
Yeah.
plant.
All right, and then some other kind of plants, herbs. You mentioned vitamin C, rich rose hips, that kind of
rose hips, any of your, I was thinking about goldenrod is a nice just
Right.
herb for allergy type things. for some people. There are obviously people who are allergic to that plant family and may need to be mindful. But anything vitamin C rich, so, we have like camu and all of those, but locally grown, of course, the rose hips is a lovely.
Yeah, which, I can't believe I didn't pick my own rose hips, but like, again, it was in my
There
garden.
wasn't much this year though. Remember, we were trying to, even in the fall, trying to find like the roses didn't really bust out last year, and I'm hoping maybe this year sometimes you see oppositions from year to year, so maybe there'll be more.
Yeah, but talking about season availability, like I didn't pick the rose hips off the plants in my garden, and they're still there.
Yes.
So the birds didn't get them, I didn't get them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're not quite as like vital as they would have been in October, but they're still there, right? Like
I'm curious if it's going to spread. Obviously, rose spreads kind of everywhere, but I want to see how it goes this year.
Yeah.
Keep us posted, Malcolm.
All right.
But rose hips, awesome.
Cool. And then, of course, the medicinal mushrooms.
The medicinal mushrooms.
In particular, reishi.
Reishi's lovely. Such a great immunomodulator. And this is another one I always recommend to people to start taking.
Right.
Even when flu season starts in like January, December, like just take your reishi. It's just such good medicine, and it really helps support the immune system.
Okay.
And we make a nice.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Ooh, look at that, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And reishi you can get. Is it very strong?
Yeah.
It's bitter. Also really good for the spring. Help that liver.
Yeah, great liver tonic.
Okay, you have to come in and try these. Oh, that is nice and bitter.
Right?
Yeah. So that's my.
Cool.
That really tastes like reishi.
Right?
Like it actually tastes like a fresh mushroom.
Yeah.
Holy.
No, totally. Cool. Did we have a word?
We didn't talk about our word, which was antihistamine.
Right. Or histamine. Yeah.
Or histamine. So
that was kind of the theme.
Yes.
That's kind of a definition. Talk about that, springtime, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So go, if you want to learn more about histamine, I do recommend Histamine Haven.
Yeah.
They have wonderful programs. They're both so knowledgeable about this, and they know, a ton of information. And this book is an awesome resource.
Totally. And it came about like, and since both of them have brought it to my awareness, like it's a way bigger issue than most realize.
It's a huge issue.
Yeah.
And they also came up with this book idea here at the Light Cellar.
That's right. They connected the two of them. Yeah.
We're like matchmakers that way.
There we are. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Happy spring.
Yeah, happy spring. Enjoy beautiful weather and the abundance of all the goodness that's like just ready. It's just popping forth. I was driving by my through my neighborhood the other day, and then we'd come back from the mountains, and one of the neighbors was like, "Whoa, wait a minute! Like, what's going on?" Like their tree was in like full like leaf.
It does not take long.
No, but I think they must have got it from BC and just planted it that day, because I didn't notice it in the morning when we drove by, but later I was like, this looks so out of place. Like it's the only tree that's like full foliage. It's like that has to have come from BC.
Really? So you could you transport it while it was all?
Yeah, probably, right? They got it from a nursery or something like that.
I'm noticing my Mayday tree. What kind of tree is that? Do you remember?
The Mayday.
It's in my brain. It's a chokecherry.
Yeah, like in the cherry family.
Yes, yeah. And it is, I just love watching it. This is such a great time of year to just watch how everything is changing in your environment, especially those places where you go often. Yeah. You're like, oh, that's popping up, and the smells, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, delightful.
Yes.
All right, on that note, let's get outside. Bye for now.
See you later.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to give us a like, share this with someone you know who would benefit, and subscribe so you're up to date with all the new episodes coming out. You can shop online at lightcellar.ca, as well as visit us in the heart of Bowness in Calgary, Alberta.